school is. And of course, he's a graduate of this school, a graduate of FIT. And he started his internship at Brooks Brothers. And he met Ralph Lauren there. And their friendship led them to the establishment of Polo at that time. He shortly after left Polo to join a great company, the Tailor of Kings, it's known in Rome, Brioni, where he was the CEO. And he had a successful career. And recently, he rejoined Ralph Lauren as president of high fashion Italian menswear, Purple Label, which is the finest. And Mr. Barrato himself is a man of great taste and great elegance and great modesty. I remember when he first came, he didn't say one word about himself. All he did was talk about Brioni, and the students said, why didn't he talk about himself? So I hope he'll tell you a little about his feeling and his approach to what made him successful, because he's special, and you can learn a lot from him. Mr. Barrato? Is that all right?
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. What I'd like to do is run the video. Could we do that before I start?
Is that loud enough? I think it's...
Can you hear me? Okay.
Mark?
Tonight, we salute Ralph Lauren, his contributions to American style and design.
All American. Ask not what your company can do.
Dexter, would you mind doing something for me?
Anything, what?
Where you wear your hat.
The swing and the whistling line runs to left center field. It's a base hit is taken on the second hop. And Emmanuel is racing for it. Emmanuel makes it with a slide and is saved for the double.
As a kid, I always liked sports. I wanted to be Joe DiMaggio when I was a kid, and then I wanted to be a movie star. I never knew I was going to become a designer. I didn't know what a designer was. Right after I got out of the Army, went to work for a company called Brooks Brothers, and then went on to work for a tie company. I watched the ties being made, and then I said, well, why don't we do this, and why don't we do that, why don't we make the tie wider? My boss at the time said, Ralph, the world isn't ready for you. So I left this company and persuaded another company to let me design ties, and I started out of a drawer in the Empire State Building. I made these ties by going to the factory and watching them being made and finding fabrics all over the place. I'd take a tablecloth and make a tie out of a tablecloth. I just used anything that was in sight that I thought could be molded into a tie. I learned as I went along and work with enough professional sewers and makers of products to be able to express what I wanted to say and for them to interpret it. Polo had a sensibility that was sporty and international, and it represented the kind of clothes that I like. It was tweedy, it was sophisticated, it was stylish. A name that I believed in and a imagery that represented what the clothes were going to be like. I never wanted to be in fashion, because if you're in fashion, you're going to be out of fashion. I like things that I want. There's a certain sort of wear to them that has a sensibility to me that I like. It's like an old saddle. Their utility, the things you wear to work in, the things that have a sort of honesty. So for me, dressing has always been an adventure of depending on what I'm going to do for the day. And you take on the role. If you ask Ernest Hemingway what his role was, you know by looking at his clothes, he took on the role of the rugged writer, the elephant hunter. He took on that role and became the man he wanted to be. And that expression came out not only in his books, but in his personal style. I never loved fashion for fashion's sake. I always loved watching a character, and they inspired me. Audrey Hepburn had personal style, and she made ordinary things look great because of her own sense of style. So style has nothing to do with fashion, it has to do with the individual. I always thought that women that would wear men's clothes, they had a sexiness. Tailored clothes for women were very rare. I used to go with my wife. She would buy boys' jackets and wear tweed hacking jackets. I thought she looked great, so that was one of my inspirations. Living in New York City, traveling around the world, you feel the vibrations, and if you are tuned in, you sort of develop an ear or a feel for the clothes that you think you're going to do next season. Fashion is about change, it's about youth, it's about aspiration, it's about what's going on in the world. It's a blend of all the things that are happening, coming from many different directions. You've got to be tuned in all the time. The way I do collections and what inspires me is a story or a theme that gets to me that says, I know how to build this. I don't build a collection from a sleeve or from a specific fabric. I build it out of a dream. Every time I design clothes, I am making a movie. And having an inspiration where I've given all my feelings out in terms of my clothes, and I feel like I write through my clothes. Advertising is the only vehicle you can have that can take it from your mind out to the consumer. Trying to say what you want to say in a straight line is very important. I want to tell a story, and I think my clothes, as I design them and as I advertise them, they're about movies. I pick the star of the movie, and she or he expresses what I have to say, and they are the real stars. And I've picked models that have certain sensibilities over the years that I felt were very much the voice that I felt was in my head. If you watch a movie and saw a character wearing something, you say, I want to be him. I want to wear that. So it wasn't the clothes per se, it was the personalities and the images that I related to. They're never about that jacket. They're about that man. They're about you, the consumer, looking at that man and wanting to have that, and why you want it. Why do you want to be that guy? What is he saying to you? I design into dreams. What people dream they'd like to look like, what they want to feel like, and what it says to them. And I think I've always had the pulse about how to express my sensibility to the consumer. Because I am the consumer. When I built my mansion on Madison Avenue, I was taking you into a world. It wasn't just a store. I was taking you into a home. I was giving you all the mood and the atmosphere. To me, that's exciting. I always felt retail was the answer to our business, because as much as a merchant loves what you do, they're not the same team. I have a team that really gets it. When you design the clothes, you have a vision. You know exactly what you want to say. If you don't watch that and carry it through, what you want to say doesn't always happen. We're all over the world, and we have to make sure that our statement gets across. What happens when you have your own retail is you carry your message right to the consumer. It's as if I'm speaking right to the consumer. And that's the best thing you can possibly do. Understanding the consumer, understanding where you are, how to get them to understand your message. That's the business of being global. When I started out, I did ties. I went from ties to shirts, to sweaters, to jackets, to men's, to women's, to home, to retail stores, to advertising, now to the internet. Today, it is the largest store we have, and it's spreading the brand and showing the brand in a way that you could never show it in advertising. You can show your whole company visually on the internet. The internet is where I can express not only my designs, but my thoughts. It makes my role much more intimate with the consumer. What makes this company interesting is that we are making profits. We are doing the right fashion. We are on Wall Street as one of the most admired companies today. I'm very proud of where we are. I feel we have a great company. I'm here because I love what I do. I love this company, and I am faced with a lot of issues. We're a public company. We have to perform. The success of this company has been we have been focused on the consumer, that we know who we are, we know how to advertise, we know how to develop product, and we've done that well. I've always vowed that I would do what I believed in and try to just keep creating and doing it with as much integrity as I possibly can.
Today I'm wearing a Pink Pony shirt by Polo Ralph Lauren, and a portion of the proceeds from Pink Pony Productions help support cancer care and prevention.
As a company that is successful, maybe there are things we can do to help others. And I think it is a very important thing to do. I think it sets an example for the rest of the world, the rest of the business community, and part of the heritage of what I would love this company to stand for. Not only beautiful products, not only good taste, but a company that thinks of the world and tries to do something that it can do. Polo is like a school. People that come to the school, they learn. Some graduate and leave, and some stay forever. I try to make the environment really comfortable because I am comfortable with a happy environment, and I like people. This is a big company. It's an international company that has the right people in the right places to make the flow work, whether it be financial or whether it be retail leaders or whether it be administrative leaders. It is a mix of talent. It's a mix of very good people that have joined together, and this is an army. It's an army of talent. And I would say that I'm the general, and the reason this company has grown is because of the talents that attract other talent. And you can't have anything if you haven't built a team. And I think one of the things that I feel most proud is that I built a team. I took it from myself into a cast of thousands. I didn't go to fashion school, so what did I have? I had a passion and something that I felt I had inside me, and I was able to express it. I enjoy the work, I enjoy building the company, and I enjoy working with people.
It's really amazing for me to look at you and see all the people that are in this company. I have a wonderful family at home, but I have a family here. My name is on the label, but it's all of us together that make this company. And I thank you very much.
Hello again. I'm Joe Barrato. I'm president of Ralph Lauren Purple Label and Black Label, and I'm honored to be here this afternoon. It's quite a video. I'm proud to say that I was there 40 years ago to experience a lot of what you just heard expressed from Ralph through that video. It's been a very interesting journey for me and my career. I think I've been coming here about 14 years now, lecturing, and it's probably one of the highlights of my career, because a mere 45 years ago, I went to this school, seems like yesterday, and I graduated, and really felt that this is where the foundation was built for me, right from this wonderful school. And I'm proud to be part of it and here today to talk to you. I'm kind of a local guy, born and raised on 19th Street, 3rd Avenue, not too far from here, from a middle-class family that had a lot of priorities that were different from mine. My priorities was the movies, was clothing. My dad was a wonderful dresser, and I always admired what he did. And I was like that peculiar guy that was always looking at things in a different way. And I realized at a very young age, I had this incredible passion to be involved in, I guess, what we call the fashion business today, the apparel business, the thread business, you name it, many, many different expressions. I recall as a very young boy, I used to collect pictures of baseball players. And many, many years ago, I still keep the books somewhere, I would review these pictures and I realized something extraordinary was happening in those days. For example, I guess the worst team in baseball in those days was a team called the Boston Braves. They don't even exist anymore. And I had more pictures of those players in my scrapbook, and I had no reason to understand why, except that that was the only team that had piping on their baseball uniforms. And I thought the piping was a wonderful individual expression. I didn't verbalize it, but I visualized it. Same goes for the St. Louis Cardinals, with that wonderful cardinal across their uniform. So I picked up on certain things that appealed to me and visually, and it never stopped. And it became my vision. So when I think about my career, I think about how lucky I am, because I never worked a day in my entire life. I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. I worked hard to get where I am. And I never feel like I'm working. I'm just enjoying myself. And I wish that for everyone in this auditorium today. I wish you all the same wonderful emotion that I get when I go to work every day. It's such a wonderful thing to experience. So if I don't talk about myself, I get myself in trouble with Professor Pervasian, so I've got to keep up about my career. I feel very fortunate, and when I think about my career, I think about where it all started right here. And I feel that, as I said before, I never worked a day in my life, so I feel very fortunate for what I've been able to accomplish. And there's a couple of things that I'd like to pass on to you that I learned in my career. Integrity, respect, quality, passion, vision, inspiration, and always follow your dreams. It's ironical that Professor Alice mentioned a gentleman by the name of Ira Niemark, who you're going to meet next week. I was very fortunate to work for Ira at one point in my career when he was president of Bergdorf Goodman. When I heard his prerequisite for what you had to wear next week, it made me go right back to one of these words that I just said to you: respect, integrity. This is a gentleman, old school, that has a certain principle that I was fortunate to be a part of in my schooling and my training, to work for a man like this. And he taught me that integrity. He was probably one of the toughest men I ever worked for in my career, but I loved him like you could not believe. He was my inspiration, my idol. But he was tough. And you are in for an amazing treat next week. And listen to what he has to say. Listen carefully. He's a good teacher. But anyway, when I talk about integrity and respect, what I've learned about this career is that it's a difficult business. And if you have the respect that I think I have over the years that I've been in this business, I did it with integrity. I never had to worry about lying or cover myself, because when you lie, then you really get in trouble, because you never remember what you say or what you were supposed to say. So keep the idea of integrity and respect very, very high on the map. I remember one good story for you to all understand, and it talks about, again, integrity and quality and respect. And I think about Ira Niemark again. Many years ago, I had 2 young boys struggling with my career. This is before my Ralph Lauren days. And I was a road salesman. I was selling trousers. So one day I got up and I had an appointment in New Jersey. I'll never forget the name of the store. It's called Bragg & Son. And I'm all excited. I did my homework, took out a piece of paper, and I said, last year I made $12 in commission. This year, if I work a little harder, maybe I can make $14. Give myself a $2 raise, and that was a lot of money in those days. So this is about 1963. I walk into the store, introduce myself, and I'm waiting for Mr. Bragg. Mr. Bragg comes, introduces himself to me. He takes one look at me and he says, young man, come over here. So I followed him. I thought we were going to go to the room to work, and he takes me to this wall of beautiful hats, men's hats. And he says to me, all right, pick a hat. And I'm saying to myself, what's going on here? What is this guy doing to me? Why does he want me to pick a hat? So I picked a hat, tried it on. He says, do you like it? I said, it's wonderful. He said, all right, I'm going to give you a break. I'm going to only charge you $6 for it. And I said, oh my God, $6. There goes half of my commission. And then he said to me, I'll never forget this. He says, young man, don't you ever walk in this store without representing your industry. I didn't have a hat on. So it was a lesson that I learned many, many years ago. It was his passion, his integrity, that taught me a lesson. And that's what I think Ira Niemark is trying to bring to you next week when he tells you to wear your best, dress to the nines, and do it for him because he will appreciate it. So anyway, there's a lot of things that are very important to me in my career. I mentioned the word passion. I think you probably heard Ralph say passion at least 10 times in that video. And passion is a unique word, because there are many things in life that will catch your eye, but only a few will catch your heart. Pursue those. That has always been my motto, and passion is a very, very important part of what I do and my career. And I think my success as well. I really believe that's a big part of my success. So the career, as I said, started on 19th Street and 3rd Avenue, pretty moderate upbringing. And today, I can say that I've traveled the world. I've met the powers of the world. I've met the most unique people, the kindest people. And I'm again, so privileged to have been in that position. Give you an example. When I worked with this company called Brioni, probably the finest hand-tailored garment in the world, I used to get involved with a lot of movies. For example, we did the Bond movie. I say we, forgive me, I've worked there for 20 years, so sometimes I forget. We did the Bond movie with Pierce. We did the new Bond movie with the new Bond. I forgot his name, just can't think of it. But anyway, thank you, Daniel. That's it. Great-looking guy, by the way. Really, really knows how to wear clothes. I'm very impressed with him. But anyway, I met people like that. I met Pacino, lots of people, but the guy that really kind of stirred me in a very positive way was Richard Gere. Richard, there's a famous director that just passed away not too long ago, Robert Altman, who was another great visionary. He was a little bit against the core, but a wonderful director and a visionary. And we did this wonderful advertising campaign that Robert saw and said, my God, that's Dr. T. So lo and behold, before you know it, the costume designer contacts us and tells us that Richard Gere would like to come up and look at the wardrobe. So we had the fashion designer come up. We've laid out a rack of clothes, and Richard Gere comes up. And he's like the Armani guy. You all remember how he started. What was the name of that movie that made his career? American Gigolo, thank you. See what happens when you reach my age? When I was in your position, I used to go to the lecturer and say, Richard Gere, American Gigolo. But anyway, so anyway, we met and we immediately bonded. It was a wonderful bond. And he's getting dressed and he's loving the clothing and he's putting on his shirt and tie. And he looks at me and says, how do I look? And I said, you look great. I said, but can I do one thing? And he said, what's that? I said, let me put a dimple in your tie. What's a dimple? And it's just a little touch. Now, can you imagine this guy from 19th Street, student at FIT, meeting Richard Gere and telling him to put a dimple in his tie? I mean, can you imagine what a thrill it is for me to be a part of that whole scene, and you all have that same opportunity? So anyway, to make a long story short, he had his assistant take a picture of the dimple. Well, it wasn't until about 6 months later when I actually went to see the movie, the first scene that he's wearing a shirt and tie, bingo, there's the dimple. So, you know, that meant a lot to me because he appreciated my knowledge and even my passion just to care about putting that little dimple in a tie. So passion goes a long way, and don't forget, pursue that. The other thing that I mentioned before was quality. I've been very, very fortunate to have always been surrounded by quality people, quality companies, quality products. I don't think I could survive without being around quality types of things. And quality is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, intelligent direction, and skillful execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives. And getting back to what Mr. Niemark is asking you all to do next week, impressions are very, very important. And don't forget that. You are going to be going into a wonderful industry that you will be representing, and it's very important that you represent it the best way you can because you represent the industry. And I hope that you all have that opportunity someday. I was looking at the Oscars last night, and I don't know if you all saw Andre Talley. I think, does he lecture here? Leon Talley, yeah. Does he lecture here? Yes. Yeah. But anyway, he was the gentleman in the double-breasted blue tuxedo with the shawl lapel. He's an editor at Vogue magazine, but he handled himself so well. And his excitement, his enthusiasm for fashion last night conveyed a very, very important message. And he is representing the industry in a very, very positive way. And that's what we all have to do and not forget that. So, following my little trip around the world, meeting all these wonderful people, associating with all these great products, understanding to always have goals and be aware and be a visionary. My vision is out there all the time. Usually when I walk along the street with my wife, I always get myself in trouble because I'm always remarking about some beautiful woman that's dressed to the nines, and she's saying, "You're not looking at the clothes, you're looking at the women." I said, "No, I'm not." But anyway, I'm always open. My vision is always open. If you remember, Ralph said something about a tablecloth that he molded into a tie. Believe it or not, one day I saw a wallpaper on a wall, and from that piece of wallpaper that I was able to take a little piece of it somewhere, I created a men's wool suit pattern out of that wallpaper. It was something that you're always on the alert for, you're always looking, and that's what you have to do, that's your job. Be alert. You heard what Ralph said in his tape, and understand that being alert all the time helps you reach many, many satisfying and gratification feelings in this business in particular. So remember the goal. Without a goal, it's difficult to kind of plan your career. And then I guess the other important thing is inspiration. I kind of put inspiration and passion together because the most passionate people inspire me. And I always try to learn from the best out there. I've worked for a lot of wonderful people in my career, and I've learned to extract the good and leave the bad back there. I happen to have been very good at that, fortunately, and my goal in my life is to pass on to you all the same things that I learned in a very positive way. But inspiration is a very important thing to me. I've been inspired by a lot of people. Ralph Lauren is someone that I knew as a young man at Brooks Brothers. We were just getting our ears wet in life. Forget about fashion or design or visions of a billion-dollar dynasty that he became. But Ralph used to sit down in those days and say things. And I used to sit there and say to myself, wow, it's hard to describe or to understand that you're in the presence of something very unique. And I always felt that about Ralph Lauren. And he's always inspired me as a result of that. And Ralph would sit and say, "Joe, this is what I want to do someday, and this is my vision." And it was a language that not too many people spoke, but I understood. And when he finally opened up his company, he called me. I was the third employee in the original Polo company. Didn't even have his name on a label. And it was the most satisfying and exciting period of my career. I've had a great career, but that's got to be one of the most unique things because of what he's built over all these years. And when I removed myself from Polo, it always was my little baby, and I followed it all my career as an outsider looking in. And after building this wonderful Brioni brand in America, I was always watching what Ralph was doing. And finally, when I thought that I was getting a little restless at Brioni and looking for a little bit of a challenge, Ralph and I got together and he said, "Let's have some fun. Let's do it all over again with Purple Label and Black Label." So that to me was probably one of the most exciting times of my career, starting up this little company called Polo and being back there 40 years later. Not the third employee this time. I think I'm number 12,000. Can you imagine? But one thing has not changed, the spirit of that company. It's bigger, but you still feel that intense Ralph Lauren spirit like it was 40 years ago. He is just amazing, and he's everywhere in a very, very positive way. So allow people to inspire you and learn from that. So continue along my career path. Can you imagine you're sitting where you are right now and I'm talking to you, and that happened to me when I went to this school. And then all of a sudden I get a call in 1998 from FIT, and they want to award me, can you imagine? The FIT Alumni Award. And I was shocked. I said, you've got the wrong person. You don't mean me, do you? They said, yeah, you. I said, well, you know, what have I done? Well, you've graduated the school and you've contributed to the industry in a very positive way, and we want to recognize you for that. Well, I was just shocked to receive the Star Salute Award, and it was a black tie affair. Can you imagine? I was able to wear my tuxedo, and it was probably one of the most thrilling nights of my career. I had a very, very aggressive marketing person who probably to that point raised the most money ever for the school, so that also made me very happy. But all I'm saying to you is that I wish you all have the same, and you will have the same opportunity, and someday you will be awarded the Star Salute Award. What better way to end your career having that wonderful award in your portfolio? So to kind of finalize everything, learning and growing is a lesson. I've learned that. All things are difficult before they become easy. I've learned that. I had my own business. When I left Ralph the first time, I decided that I was going to go into my own business and make a ton of money. And I opened up actually one retail store. Then I got greedy and opened up a second one, which was my mistake. I wasn't even prepared to really financially support, thank you. I can't even think about it, and it's all so long ago. But anyway, financially support the first one. I got greedy and I opened up the second one. And what happened was that I lost every penny I earned over the years, but it was probably the greatest lesson in my life. It made me stronger, it made me better. It cost me a few bucks, but it was a good lesson. So like I said, all things are difficult before they become easy, but be very positive about the things that are difficult because they become relatively easy if you have a positive attitude. Look for opportunities, and sometimes the opportunities look for you. It works both ways. Keep the passion. Keep the passion. Keep your integrity. Keep your integrity. And pay attention to detail. Remember the wallpaper story? And please, always be respectful and considerate. Learn, learn, learn. Thank you very much. Now, this is the best part of this lecture for me. It's called questions and answers. So I want to hear all the questions you can throw at me. Where do we start? Yes.
What was your first position upon graduating from FIT? How did you transition from that to?
You think I remember that long ago? Actually, it was Brooks Brothers, and I was in those days called assistant to the buyer. So basically, I was an assistant buyer, and I ultimately became the youngest buyer in the history of Brooks Brothers. But that's where I went from here, and that's where I met Ralph. Good question. Yes.
Hi, my name's Fabio. I'm absolutely in love with Purple Label and Black Label. What's the vision? What's coming up for the future? Is it going to be just as exciting as it has been for the past 2 years or so?
Good question. I think it's going to be better because I'm there now. Purple Label represents the ultimate, I guess it's Ralph's most personal statement. It's the ultimate product that he could produce. Everything is made in Italy, top quality. Suits are about $4,000, and he's got shearlings, and he's got beautiful piqué cottons, and really the ultimate product. And it's really geared for a gentleman with an American classic taste, with a Savile Row kind of sensibility. Maybe what I'm wearing. I'm all in Purple Label today. Black Label, on the other hand, is younger, and it's more international, And it's a product that I call clothing without rules. For example, the way men dress today, they could take a black label suit and do anything they want with it. There's no rules. I wear clothing the way I was taught by the book. Young men could take this jacket and wear it with a pair of jeans or a t-shirt or a shirt without a tie. And what it's doing, by the way, which is so important, is getting more young men into suits. And that's the objective. I don't care how they wear it, as long as they stop wearing them. So it's been a very positive thing. And the vision is to keep Purple Label on that luxury level, the ultimate of all his products, and Black Label still the young, more edgy, kind of sexy part of his lifestyle of brands. I guess a good way to describe it, if you looked at the Oscars last night, let me give you a good analogy. I mean, all of the young guys, the Smiths, the DiCaprios, Wahlberg, they were all in that kind of very slim-looking suit. And the older gentlemen were into a little more of the Purple Label look. You know, that's the two worlds. Now, me, on the other hand, because I consider myself young at heart. I love Black Label. I feel like a different person when I wear it. It sets me back maybe 10, 15 years, and I love that feeling. So, you know what I'm saying? And Ralph said it in the video. I like to, when I get up in the morning and dress, I like to think about the role I'm playing that day. I really do. That's what makes it exciting about being in this business. The role model playing, or playing the role for the day by whatever you think you want to wear. And it's exciting for me. Next question? Yes?
Hi, I was wondering what advice you can give future graduates on breaking into European markets as opposed to American markets.
I guess the first thing you have to do is go to Europe. No, seriously. As you know, there's a lot of great Americans working in Europe today, and they've been very tenacious at getting to the position that they are at today. You know, they're working in a low position, and you just work your way up the ladder. And I guess it just takes a lot of patience, a lot of the things that I said today, passion. I mean, I see a lot of Americans working in Europe, and there's an opportunity. There really is. But you've got to set your goals, like I said, understand where the map is going to take you, and just follow your lead. And I think that there's opportunity. Yes. Hey.
And I'm wondering what classes at FIT you can remember were the most useful and applicable to your career.
I think they all were. Is that being diplomatic? You know, it's hard to say because I remember the administrative classes, that kind of the business classes where the emphasis was numbers and running. I was in a retail business at that time, so that was important. And then there was also a class I recall where I was cutting paper. And I remember that as enjoyable. So it was pretty flexible for me. It didn't matter what it was. I just enjoyed it. But don't forget, FIT in those days was very small. Doesn't have anything near the quality of what it is today. I hate to tell you, we were probably just under 1,000 students in those days. Very small. I think there's one building, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Is that right, Alice? Could it have been one building? Yeah. Yeah. 70,000. Wow. Wow. That's great. Any other questions? Well, great. Yes.
I was just wondering, Ralph Lauren is a company that nice about it is characterized by having a lot of labels that cover a lot of different price points in the market. And I was wondering what your opinion is in terms of whether that affects the quality of the top labels or if it affects the quality of the bottom labels.
That's a great question. Where'd you come up with that one? You think I can answer that? No, I think it's a great question, and I guess the best way to say it is lifestyle, because what Ralph likes to do is get them really young and bring them all the way up. And as you know, in your life, some people have to earn as they grow in their career and in age. It doesn't come that easy very early on. And what Ralph tries to project basically is A, get the brand awareness to the consumer, and then as he or she grows in their career and trades up from one level to the next, he's right there for them. For example, he's got basically, I think, 4 clothing labels. Lauren for the real young guy who doesn't have that much money right now. Then there's something called Polo, which is the blue label. He's maybe on Wall Street just about ready to explode his career and become a purple label guy. So basically Ralph is saying, why give it to somebody else? Let me grow these people in their careers in my sensibility and my taste level. And he creates an entire lifestyle. And he's done that with children's, he's done that with women's, he's done that with men's, he's done that with home furnishings. And he serves a lot of different markets. But the brand is very viable, and it's out there for people who know it and who want it. And there's certain points where they can afford it. And I think that's what he's basically, he's done, and very successfully. Does that answer it? You know, you're right. I mean, if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. And if somebody's going to knock you off and not do it as well as the real person can, you might as well go ahead and do it. And it doesn't lack integrity doing that because you're covering all different markets. And let me tell you something, Purple Label, all they care about is the quality of Purple Label. They don't care that the brand may be available in a $300 suit or something. I mean, that may be an exaggeration. You know what I'm saying? They want the Purple Label. And that's all they care about. There's other people that can only afford a certain part of the brand, and that's all they want. So it really does complement each other. Any other questions? Yes.
With the introduction of Ralph Lauren to JCPenney, how do you think that will affect the Lauren customer? Would that be taking away from Lauren?
No, you know what I personally think about that? I think that's going to enhance the lifestyle of JCPenney and their consumers. It's not going to be Ralph Lauren. It's going to be American lifestyles. It's going to be a very all-American thing, which no one but Ralph can do as good as he does. And I see that as a very positive thing because I just think it's going to elevate the lifestyle of the consumer that shops at JCPenney. Not to say that JCPenney doesn't have a great mix of merchandise, but with American styles, it's going to be better. And in the sensibility of like a Ralph Lauren. And no one can do it as good as he can, and all it will do is extend a taste level, not so much the brand, but a taste level. Does that make sense to you? 1,200 stores, by the way. I can't wait to see it. You know, there was a time when I would go to a discount store and buy Gant shirts. Gant was the hot thing for young guys, like Black Label is today. I couldn't afford an $18 Gant shirt in those days. So I used to go down to a place called Simms on Wall Street and buy a second for $12. I mean, there are people like that in this world that, you know, they're aspirational. I always kept my eye on a real Gant, and someday I was able to afford it. When I did, I was there. But in the beginning, I could only buy what I could afford. But I had the opportunity. Great questions. Did I miss anybody? Yeah, I'm sorry. I would think that you should go over the roster of speakers that come here, and whatever you think contributes most to your lecture are the ones you should ask. Well, you're going to, next week you're going to meet a giant, a legend, Ira Neimark. Obviously, a guy like Ralph Lauren. Then there's a guy like Clifford Grodd, who owns Paul Stewart. Anybody ever hear of Paul Stewart? All right, he owns Paul. I mean, these are people that inspired me. There's so many out there, and for different reasons. Yeah, I can't quite specifically answer it, but it's just a matter of what you're looking to do, the objective, and yeah. Any other questions? Well, thanks very much. This has been an inspiring experience. Thank you.